My next guest has been writing music since the age of 15 and has amassed a portfolio of over 500 songs. In March 2017, she decided to become a full-time top-line songwriter and producer. Welcome to this edition of Jibba Jabba, the networking magazine's podcast show, with Di from DiDs Music. Thank you for joining me, Di.
Hi, thanks, Sanj. Thank you for having me on.
No problem. It's been 2 years since we wrote an editorial on you, and I wanted an opportunity to catch up. So what's been going on? It's been some time.
It has, yes, it has been definitely some time. Well, I did decide to go sort of expand my experience, if you like, and sort of like start to sort of do a bit more in the world of sync with my music, less to do with finding artists and just releasing it myself. I still do that, but I sort of like tend to listen to what's current and what's being used within film and TV, trailers and ads and that kind of thing. And on the back end of that, I decided to go and sort of re-educate myself into how that all works, and sort of it's quite interesting.
Was that hard to do? Was it hard to get that sort of information, to re-educate yourself, just from the perspective of new people coming on board into this sort of market? Was it very hard to...
Yeah, it's shrouded in a cloak.
Right.
It's not the easiest thing to find. You can find companies who'll, take a percentage and, will make promises that they will try and get your songs placed.
Right.
But you have to be super careful with that. They like to embed words in the contracts that if you're not careful, they end up owning your songs, and you can't do anything with them. So you have to be super, super careful. You have to really read. And I mean, I was going to go back into education and do a degree in music law.
Right. You've already got a degree, haven't you?
I do, yeah. I have a BA honours in music.
Wow.
But I don't know that it's too academic for me. I'm very creative. I think I might get bored.
You actually, I've got to be honest with you, one of the people I've met who are academic and creative. Usually it's one or the other, but not a sort of combination of the two. So it's pretty unique, really, to be honest.
It is, yeah. I mean,
what inspired you to become a music producer in the first place?
So to actually do music production, it was actually because if you go onto sites like Splice, any site that does offers samples of music. So we're not talking about samples of music that already exist in a song. We're talking about like a drum track or a piano or even just like a sound. That kind of sample. So they're usually royalty free, and you can create songs from them. However, when you don't know what you're doing, it's very difficult. What you have is pieces of clips of music they're very disjointed and don't work. And I got very frustrated because I knew what I wanted to do, and I was finding riffs and stuff like that, but couldn't put them together. It just did not work.
Yeah.
And I wanted, you can spend thousands of pounds getting other people to make music, make the tracks for you, or licensing the tracks. Which the problem with that, particularly with sync licensing, a lot of companies won't even consider putting your music even in the catalogue if it's not owned by you 100%.
Right. That's the thing. When I look at sort of the online landscape and you see sort of royalty-free music that's available, you always wonder how the creators of that music actually make any money.
They do, because they earn money they sell the samples of music, so their instrumentations, whether they're a guitarist, whether they're a singer, etc. And they get paid every time it's clicked on. So I pay subscription, and they get portions of that every time someone does. So potentially they can earn thousands of pounds if they've got like hundreds of samples.
Now I get it. Because you look at it from an outside perspective and you think, how does this work? You know, you can get stuff for free. How do they make money?
That's how they make money.
Okay, so what about, I mean, that for those people in the audience who haven't really sort of read the article yet, or the editorial on you, which I will put the link in the podcast description, just to go over a few things, just some of the things that were in the article, and what is your creative process when you're producing music? I mean, do you have like a template, a formula? Is everything done the same way, or do you just wake up creative and you say, no, I'm going to do this, and it's at midnight, you just jump out of bed and you create something? I mean, do you have a creative process that you use?
I as a personality, I'm quite impulsive. I'm organised when I have to be, but I don't like to put things in boxes, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I'm very much, like you were saying, jumping out of bed. I will have lyrics come into my head and an idea for melody. I'll either be asleep and I'll get woken up by it. I'll have like a melody going over and over and over in my head, and it wakes me up. And if I have any lyrics, I have to write them down straight away, especially if I'm in bed, because I know in the morning I'm going to forget them.
Yeah.
So I then sort of like put them down as best I can on my phone, and then in the morning hope it makes sense.
I've got to ask you this. I mean, does the academic side of you often cross over with creative, and sort of there's a battle between being sort of organized and very structured to being creative and dynamic, like you just described, jumping out of bed, which you wouldn't do if you're sort of an academic. You'd have like stick it notes on everywhere, and you sort of be more logical with the approach. Do you have that battle where it's academic?
I have to basically, I use a site called Trello, which is basically an organization board that basically tells me, this is what you need to do. And
bad enough with the phones.
Stuff, but most of the time I don't follow those things.
Right. Okay. And what about, I mean, how do you work with artists to bring their vision to life? I know you've been working with Zoe. There's loads of artists you've been working with. I mean, how do you bring their vision to life? Is it very complicated to sort of read what they have in mind and translate that over? Or is that a skill you have, or something that you've developed over the years?
Yeah, I can pretty much usually it's a case of like, they tell me, they quite often don't know what genre they want their song to be, their vision in. They kind of have an idea in their head, but if they've got even some sort of scratchings of lyrics, even if it's more of a story, I can pull out the bits that they really want and get rid of the rest. Right. And from that, they're going to go, okay, this sounds to me, it's like this. And then I get them to find a reference of songs that they like, that they think their song would fit into. And then we basically go into whether it would fit.
Is that a long process? I mean, is that
that bit is quite long, and I can end up making quite a few like demo tracks to sort of get where we need to be. Right. And if you've got someone who's not very good with writing lyrics, then I end up sort of taking the reins with that as well, and do a bit of coaching. I'm working with an artist called Megan Louise, or Megan L. We're having to change her name to because you can't find her on Spotify. There's too many of them, and she struggles to write lyrics, but she has, she can write, ideas, but to form them into a song is quite hard. And she doesn't. She's not a top line singer, so top line singer and songwriter is someone who can. So if you were to play any piece of music to me, regardless if it's really well known, I could close my eyes and listen to it and come up with a completely different melody.
Wow.
And that's what my liner is. Yeah. So, and you can have top line singers, which I do sing, so I can do that. But songwriters can also do that. Yeah. So they know where they want their song to go and how they want it to go. So they're instructing a singer. They can go, no. I want it to sound like this. Even if they don't sing, they can give them a reference.
You work with a lot of genres, right? You work with a lot of different genres. Do you have a favorite one that you like to produce? I mean, there's quite a few listed on the editorial, but is there a favorite that you have?
I quite like doing things that are more adult contemporary, that can be that a little bit aren't mainstream. Right. So I get, because you can get a bit more creativity with them.
Is that your niche? Would you say that's a good advantage point for you?
Yeah, I mean, it helps that I top line, because I can listen to different artists and listen to how they sing. And I had singing lessons years ago, so I know when I'm doing the melody guides, I
Right.
know how I want it to go.
Mhm.
I can do obviously mainstream and pop, and I listen to pop all the time, what's on the radio, because I have
Yeah.
to hear, I need to know what's out there and
Yeah.
what's current. And so, for example, at the moment, what's very current is dark pop,
Yeah.
which is, the main thing about dark pop is the lyrics.
Mhm.
And the song's a bit more brooding. So if you think along the lines of Billie Eilish, for example, she's
Yeah.
classic dark pop.
Yeah. Right.
And they can the lyrics can go very dark, and it's almost a crossover between pop and emo,
Right. Okay.
the sort of style.
Yeah.
And that's very current, and I actually really love it. I'm writing a song at the moment called "Welcome to My Dark Side."
Well, is that your latest project? Is that the one you're working on at the
one of the
moment?
ones I'm working at the moment. Yeah.
Right. Okay. When will that be released? Do you think?
Well, the track's done. I was working with an artist, but I'm not sure that we're a good fit. So I
Right.
might be looking for a new artist
Right.
to sing it,
Okay.
and just do work for hire.
Yeah.
Which collaborating with people, you've got to connect. And if
Yeah.
there's
There's got to be
something,
synergy. Yeah.
yeah. And if you're off the bat, if you aren't agreeing to the co-write agreement, then it's
Yeah.
probably not going to work.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about technology, because my God, it changes every 2 minutes, right?
Yeah.
How do you in your industry keep up to date with the technology? I mean, if someone's entering into this industry, you need more than just talent, don't you? You need to know
Yeah.
how technology works. So what sort of technology do you use? I mean, is it something that's unique or something that's mainstream that anyone can use? You just got to know how to use it.
Yeah, I mean, the digital workstation I use, or the DAW, is Logic Pro, which anyone can use. But you do
Right.
need if you don't know how to use it, it is like, wow, I don't
Yeah.
know. It's not something you open and go, oh yeah, this is easy, because it's
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
Again, it was something I learned at university. But
Right.
prior to that, I would just fumble along trying to, you can record vocals, but that's
Yeah.
pretty much it.
I've seen
know
you on
what to do.
Instagram and I've seen you on TikTok, and you have been producing a lot of content out there.
Yeah.
How much of your business has moved to content? I mean, just sitting on Instagram and sitting on TikTok, and is it relevant? Is it needed, or is it something that's just an added sort of benefit?
No, it is. The problem with music, and every artist, musician, and producer out there will know this. You can produce a great song, you can make a great song, you can sing and write a great song.
Mhm.
However, once you've released it, first of all, you've got to know how to release it, and there
Yeah.
are, like all parts of the industry, there are companies out there that are better than others. So
Yeah.
even distribution. If you don't market your songs, and that doesn't just mean on social media, because unless you have thousands of people following you, so if you're an artist, you might do, if you do
Yeah.
gigs and stuff. But as a songwriter, a lyricist, or a producer, you won't necessarily. So
Yeah.
because you're not going out and gigging, so you don't have those thousands.
You're the sort of hidden sort of hero behind the
Yeah,
scenes. So
exactly.
yeah.
You don't.
Yeah.
So doing social media is not enough. So certainly Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. You need to be doing the TikTok.
Right.
That is one of the big ones nowadays.
Yeah.
And even with Insta and Facebook, the Reels,
Yeah. The reels
they
sort of have a wider reach, don't they?
They do.
Yeah.
YouTube, I don't do a lot with YouTube just because it's so time consuming.
Yeah. It's interesting that, because, a lot of people say the same thing, that YouTube is quite effective, but it's basically producing something, from scratch. You've got to produce a really polished, finished product, and it's just so time consuming.
And again, for me, being a producer, it means, and I do wear lots of hats, it means I have to create a video.
Yeah.
So then I've got to find the right pieces of video footage. I've got to be able to transition it so it's smooth, and it takes a lot of time. And I do it. I mean, I've done one for Science of Life. It's not quite finished, not quite smooth enough yet.
I like that track. That was one of my favorites, Signs of Life. Yeah. Okay, right. Well, what about approaching mixing and mastering to create a polished final product? I mean, when is enough? I mean, do you sort of sit there and keep polishing the song once it's being produced, do you keep saying, no, I'm going to go back to the drawing board, I'm going to do this? Because being academic, I suppose you would, over and over. Are you a perfectionist? That's the question.
You can end up, there's a very fine line when you're mixing and even mastering. The rule of thumb is if you spend a day mixing, you then need to walk away for a couple of days, because what will happen is what you think sounds great after 8 hours, it's not necessarily going to sound great.
Yeah. Who's your second opinion? I mean, do you seek second opinions?
I do send it. So if I'm working with an artist, I send it to them. But quite often there won't be people. They'll be just general people, Joe Blogs. So they'll go, yeah, sounds great, but they won't be listening to what I hear.
I see.
So I have to think along the lines of, another producer, an A&R person, a sync agent, what they're listening for. Right. And that can sometimes, just balancing the vocals can be an absolute nightmare.
Yeah, I bet. Well, let's talk about some upcoming projects that you're working on at the moment. Firstly, is it true that the more you throw up in the air, the more comes down? I mean, when you're writing, do you write multiple projects? Yeah. And then that's the way it works, or do you just focus on one at a time?
No, I do loads. I've always got about 10 songs on the go at any one time.
Wow. Is that difficult to do, to balance? I mean, does that make your job even harder because you've got to balance all the music at the same time?
No, I find that because it can become a bit frustrating. Like if I can't find a sample or I can't play something in, or it's not working quite how I want it to in my head, right? Then it's quite good to be able to switch to something else and go, actually, I'm going to go and mix this, or I'm going to go and write some lyrics or do the melody of this one because I need a break from this. Yeah. So it's actually quite good to be able to have that ability to just go, no, I need to walk away from this for a bit. Because again, you can just mess it all up.
Yeah, I get that. What about, okay, so let's talk about music production in the future. I always ask this question. I mean, do you think it's going to change dramatically? You think technology will take over? There's a lot of talk about AI in the news. And I'm wondering how you think that will implode into your industry.
So AI already has imploded into the music industry. Right. I mean, it can be used to write lyrics. I have looked at this to see how good this is. And it's not bad. I've looked, when I'm stuck for an idea, I can go into it and go, oh, I like that. Yeah. And then I will jigger it around a little bit. It'll give me a little bit of an idea. Does it create a whole song? Depends on your idea of a song.
Very well answered.
As far as technology goes within the industry, so plugins, there are some really, really cool plugins that can just make it sound amazing. I mean, one of the big ones that came out, which isn't AI, but it is quite big, is the Dolby Atmos that is now can be used as a plugin within doors. And the sound is you get more of a surround sound. Yeah. And everything's a little bit crisper and a little bit clearer. And
I think they just introduced that into SoundCloud as well. Not Dolby in that version, but I think even in SoundCloud they've introduced Dolby to give it a more stereo sort of sound, and that's a new tool. Yeah, a new creators tool.
I think AI within music, I think will be good. I mean, I think for lyricists it could be a little bit scary because potentially puts them out. They could potentially lose some work. They might not get as much to say, but
there's also that thing about who owns the music. If AI's written it, who owns it?
Again, it would be royalty free. So they would make their money probably from advertising, I'm guessing.
Yeah, probably.
More than anything else.
Yeah, probably. My God, right. Well, so tell me about the advice to newbies, because obviously I always have this in mind that people who are listening to this are in your industry, in your sector, or interested in joining your sector. Are you ever too old to join your sector? I mean, can you... Could you be someone later on in life, like you said, oh, I'm going to study? Could it be that someone just joins your sector at any age? Is it age dependent?
No, you can join it any time. Obviously, it depends on what side of it you're doing. So if you're going to be a singer, there's a life. If you're only coming into it late in life, you're probably going to struggle. But if you're doing behind the scenes, no, any age.
Right.
Any age at all. You just have to have, I would say, patience, creativity, obviously, talent, and you have to be savvy. You have to be streetwise, because there are so many companies out there. PR campaign companies are the worst for just ripping people off. They use bots. They potentially use a site that's using bots. You won't know they're using bots. They'll swear blind they're not.
Yeah.
But if they use bots and like the likes of Spotify and Apple Music, etc., they can take your whole catalogue down.
Yeah, I get it.
You can potentially get banned off those sites. It's not worth the price. So you really have to do your research. Really research.
Well, that's good advice, really. Listen, I know that you are extremely busy, and I've basically stolen your afternoon. We've been trying to work the software together for a few days, but we got there in the end. That was the main thing. Yeah, we got there in the end. Listen, Di, thank you so much for spending some time with me, and hopefully we'll do another catch up soon. Is there anything you want to say about your project that's up and coming? Where can people look out for it? Where will you be publicizing it?
Basically, if you just go onto DiDs Music, you just put it in Google, you'll find me everywhere.
Right.
All over the internet.
I'll put a link in the podcast description for everyone. So yeah. Listen, it's been a joy. Thank you so much for joining me today, and we'll catch up soon again.
You take care. Thanks, Sanj.
You too. Okay. Bye for now.
Bye.